The global food supply is facing vast challenges: uneven distribution of food, climate change, food loss and waste, malnutrition and obesity. With a growing population, we must collaborate to ensure a reliable supply of sustainable, safe, high-quality food to consumers all over the world, both now and in the future. Somewhere in the world, there's the perfect food business partner for you. A partner who can help grow your business in the global food arena. A business area characterized by enormous growth. It's highly likely that your future food business partner will come from Denmark. Even though our own agricultural area is relatively modest, Danish food production feeds 3 times our own population. Denmark is one of the market leaders in both primary and processed food production, food equipment and ingredients industry, know-how and research. Doing business with the Danish food cluster, you become a part of tomorrow's opportunities and solutions. In Denmark, successful researchers, entrepreneurs and food producers are already future-bound when it comes to their knowledge of resource efficiency, sustainability and innovation. Let's collaborate across nations to convert the global challenges into opportunities. Food Nation is a public-private partnership established by the Danish government and leading private organizations and companies working as a gateway for international stakeholders seeking information about Danish food solutions. Join the Danish food cluster as a business partner or build a career in a field where you will contribute to creating change and discovering better solutions of tomorrow.
Welcome to Food Nation's Global Food Talk, ensuring global food security with innovative, sustainable solutions as a lever. The aim with our series of Global Food Talks is to address how the world ensures safe and healthy food for everyone in a sustainable way. My name is Lise Valbom and I'm the CEO of the public-private partnership Food Nation. And I've been looking very much forward to meet all of you online here today. I've been looking very much forward to welcome you in the live streaming from our new virtual universe, as I hope you will feel welcome in and maybe also feel inspired to browse around maybe later on. We are live streaming right here and now from our visitor center in Copenhagen, and I would like to start with a very warm welcome to all our speakers and all of you joining us from around the world. I can tell you that we have our key speakers here in the studio and that we have representatives participating from people around the world, from Belgium to Nigeria and also from Indonesia to Saudi Arabia. So we are really getting out with this important message. Today's talk is really important and it's held in connection with the United Nations World Food Day. So welcome all of you. People around the globe share a common need for safe, nutritious and reliable supply of food. According to the United Nations, the number of severely food insecure people has doubled in just 2 years. It has doubled from 135 million pre-pandemic to 276 million today. The current situation is alarming. Conflict, instability, and increasing climate variability and extremes are affecting agricultural productivity. Also the food production and natural resources, and we see huge impact on general food systems. All of this has led to major shifts in the way we handle food and the way we produce food, how food is distributed, and how it is consumed worldwide. and it has led to new food security, nutrition, and health challenges. We need to face these challenges together. The COVID-19 worsened the situation, and the ongoing war in Ukraine presents additional food security challenges, as the conflict is certainly disrupting food supply chains. Therefore, we must ensure efficient and sustainable food production everywhere. We need to ensure that everyone, wherever we are in the world, has regular access to enough nutritious and safe food. Today we will talk about how innovative sustainable solutions can be a lever to ensure global food security. So let's take a quick look at the challenges the world is facing in relation to food insecurity.
8 billion people, one agri-food system. Conflict, climate change, slowdowns and downturns. Inequality, rising food prices. Are denying progress to many, limiting progress for us all. What affects one impacts many. Sustainability starts with equal opportunity. Equal opportunity for farmers, producers, and consumers, and care for the environment. Let's build a world with more and good quality food that is safe, nutritious, and affordable for all. Leave no one behind.
With this introduction, let's talk. And let today's Global Food Talk inspire and initiate actions and next steps towards ensuring an efficient and sustainable food production all over the world. Our speakers today are Arif, Husain, Chief Economist and Director of Research, Assessment and Monitoring at the United Nations World Food Programme, Mr. Laustsen, Director, Trade Markets and Nutrition from the Danish Agriculture and Food Council, Kinga Szabo Christensen, Advisor Director from the Confederation of Danish Industry, Morten, Enggaard, Rasmussen, Executive Vice President, Sustainability and Brand from Novozymes, and also Torben Funder-Kristensen, Head of Industry Affairs, Climate Solutions from Danfoss. These are all powerful guests with deep insight into the global agriculture and food systems and the business environment, and with high ambitions to creating change and for a more sustainable future. With these words, I will give the floor to our keynote speaker, Mr. Arif Husain, Chief Economist and Director of Research, Assessment and Monitoring at the United Nations World Food Programme, who in these uncertain times will stress the urgent need for securing global sustainable agriculture and food system. Mr. Arif Husain is with us live on a connection directly from Rome. I would like to give you the floor for you, Mr. Arif Husain. Welcome.
Thank you very much. I hope you can hear me all right. With the over the last 5 years, we have seen numbers grow for chronic hunger, meaning people who go to bed hungry regardless of their situation, and reaching over 800 million. We have seen acute hunger, people who are in shock because of something happened. For example, earthquake or a drought or war. And that number before crisis, like Lee said, was 135. During COVID, it went to 276, and now today it is 345 million. But we call emergencies. That means that they are one step away from famines. We have extreme poverty, over 750 million. We have forcibly displaced people who are upwards of 100 million. And this is our world in the 21st century. This is the state of global food security in the 21st century. And I like to say that one of the indicators of how bad things are, that when United Nations World Food Program, which is the largest humanitarian agency, it starts to set records year after year. In 2021, 128 million, which was again a record. And today, this year, we are planning to reach between 150 to 160 million people, which will be a record again. This shows how but at the same time, the needs have ballooned. So our gap between what we need versus what we have is more than 50%. Now you would ask, why is this all happening? What are the reasons? And they're quite simple. First and foremost, it's conflict, it's wars. In many, many parts of the region, it's just wars. The second one, it is economic marginalization, inequality. We see both the intensity and frequency of climatic shocks just increasing all over the place. The second challenge right now, and this relates to the war in Ukraine, is that during 2022, we are experiencing something which we call the affordability crisis, meaning there is if we don't sort out the fertilizer issue, then today's affordability crisis will turn into tomorrow's availability crisis. And that is something we certainly don't want in any part of the world. So it is critically important that as food is moved, the third thing which is impacting right now is because of COVID, because of other things, countries are in many countries. In fact, 60% of low-income countries are in high debt distress or at high risk of debt distress. Food inflation in more than 4 countries is more than 15%. By the way, this is not only in poor countries, but also have their currencies devalued by more than 25%. And we are seeing a strong dollar. And when the dollar is strong, that means that the prices for poor countries of importing these things, repaying their loans, everything goes up. And that together ability to pay back loans in terms of their ability to import essential commodities like food, like fertilizer. So bottom line is that if you're a poor country, if you have high debt, if you import your food, you import your fertilizer, you import your fuel, you are in trouble. And we need to help those countries which are in this type of trouble. Then coming to essentially and by whom. And very classic example of that, war in Ukraine by itself is a terrible thing, but you can see the repercussions of that around the world. We also saw that before. War in Syria, repercussions for Europe, poverty in Central America, repercussions for the United States. So I think one of the main things is to rethink war, reanalyze, redo the calculus of war. The second thing which must happen is that we need to rethink our agricultural policies and we need to rethink our energy policies. On the agricultural side, you will be surprised probably to know that less than 10 countries import like 80-90% of our basic food commodities like corn, wheat, rice, soybean. Less than 10 countries. And even lesser of these commodities. Is essentially disproportionate. So we need to sort that out. I don't need to say anything in Europe about energy. If we don't have energy, our energy base diversified, that creates huge problems like we are seeing what is happening right now in Europe in terms of both the availability of natural gas, but also so lesson here is essentially that we need to diversify. We need to think about strategic reserves. We need to think of buffer stocks, but all of that has to be strategic. And we need to think about giving poor countries debt relief for hunger relief. If we can give debt relief for environment, why cannot we give debt relief like debt swaps for new? This is something. Now comes the question of what are the, have you been, what will it take? Who can do this? And for me, this is a global problem, what we are experiencing right now, which requires a global solution. It is not about one country. It is not about one agency. It is not about one donor. It is not about one piece of civil society. All of us need to come together and implement the solutions. Now, the good news is that we do know what needs to be done. We know the problem. I just defined you the entire problem statement. We also know we have the technology to fix agriculture, to fix environment, to even fix energy. I think money wisely used, like repurposing money in agriculture, today in many parts of the and in my humble opinion, I think it is a matter of one, political will, and two, it is a matter of staying with the problem till it is solved. Many of the issues we are talking about today about agriculture and high prices, high food prices, they were real in 2008 also, and in 2011 also. So we knew what the solutions were even then, but they did not get implemented. Maybe this time we stay the course and we don't give up on that till the problem is solved. And frankly, doing that is not going to take just one day or 1 month. It will take a few years. But the long-term returns, both in terms of lives saved will far. I thank you, and I'll stop here.
Okay. Thank you very much, Arif Husain. And I'm sorry to everyone participating here today that we have a slightly poor line to Rome. So it was a little bit difficult to get the complete message, Mr. Arif Husain.
I cannot hear you.
You can't hear me? Okay, even more challenging. Let's just make sure that you get my sound. We're just trying one more time. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Okay.
Yes, I can hear you now.
Thank you very much.
Sorry.
I'll just repeat that I'm sorry that we had a rather poor line to Rome, and I hope it will be better now. So we'll just try to sum up of your important message, Mr. Arif Husain, and thank you very much for your time in underlining the importance of giving awareness to create food security all over the world. But one of the things you were mentioning was that in recent history, we have actually been dealing with high inflations before, and we see it again today, and we can expect the situation to be worse than we see it today regarding food insecurity. But however, this time it's different. You mentioned it yourself. So how is it different? And why do you believe that this time we are in a better position of handling this huge challenge?
I hope the whether you talk 2011 and even the COVID times. And why I say that is for 3 or 4 different reasons. First and foremost, in 2008 and 2011, when we went through high food and fuel price crises, they were intense. But at that time, there was no COVID. And there was no income effect of COVID. So prices went up, but people's purchasing power was still there. COVID had changed that. COVID had changed the purchasing power of people, but it had also changed the revenues, the incomes of the governments, right? So number
we have a very unstable line to Rome. I'm really sorry, Mr. Arif Husain. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, I can.
It's just the very unstable line here. So I'm sorry that we need to interrupt you here and now, but I will just try to sum up the main message that I noted here. I'm really sorry about this. So you highlighted, of course, the very important indicators that we see on the challenge, the conflict, the economic situation, the inequality. And what I will take away from your keynote here is certainly that today we have a really good knowledge of the problem that we are facing. We do have the technology to go in and solve some of these challenges, and we have many ways of approaching the problem. What we need is the political will. We need to stay with the problem, as you said, and we should never give up. And as you also had on the United Nations World Food Day motto, we should leave no one behind. So I think that will be my key takeaway from you today, and I hope that we can follow up at another time where we can hopefully have a better line to Rome. So thank you very much for being with us today. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So once again, I'm deeply sorry about the unstable line to Rome, but I hope you got the key messages from Mr. Arif Husain live from Rome. I'm really excited now about the live conversation we are going to have here in the studio with no messing up with the connections. And our next two inspiring guests will be sharing their views on how we ensure sufficient nutrition food for everyone and which approach to value chain development we need. What is special with our next two guests is that they are both representing important industry organizations in Denmark with a huge international approach. With us, we have Mr. Jan Laustsen, and he is Director of Trade, Markets and Nutrition at the Danish Agriculture and Food Council. Jan is representing the whole value chain, the farmers, the food industry, including companies, trade, and farmers association. Jan Laustsen has a huge global network and a strong focus on building international relations and collaborations to share sustainable solutions. With a deep insight into the global agriculture and food landscape, Jan is representing the whole value chain perspective when working with the different stakeholders and organizations, both Nordically, European, and in general in international context. Kinga Szabo Christensen is Advisory Director at the Confederation of Danish Industry. This is Denmark's largest business organization covering manufacturing as well as service industry across sectors such as transport, energy, health, food, trade and professional services. Kinga Szabo Christensen has lived and worked abroad for many years and has a solid know-how of establishing and operating cross-border and cross-sector partnerships and operations globally. So, welcome to both Kinga and Jan. Please join me. Welcome, both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And it's great to have you here in the studio live. So we have a really important subject to discuss. And I would like to start with the key question. And Kinga, you will have the opportunity to give the first answer. But the question is, what approach to value chain development is needed to ensure these sufficient and nutritious food for everyone?
First of all, thank you so much for having me here. It's such an important and very relevant topic for the time being and also in the future, that I have a lot to say about it, and I hope we can have a good discussion today. As we heard, and not heard a little bit because of the line, unfortunately the current state of the global food system is not in a good shape. And creating resilient systems to ensure sufficient nutrition for everyone in the world requires really to look across the industrial sector, across and work in the whole value chain. You know, it requires really innovative power because it's a new way of thinking. And I think that partnerships and digitization are two keywords here to work in the value chain approach. You know, Denmark is a small country and collaboration really is in our DNA. And even if I'm not Danish, I've lived here for a long time, and really thinking in holistically partnerships is really a Danish DNA. And I think that type of approach is kind of the solution if we have to basically find global solutions, as we also heard before. I think I represent the majority of the Danish private sector. So my approach here today is also to bring the private sector's role into this discussion. I think the best way right now we can help, both in Denmark but also in other countries, is to really support and help to boost companies who are actually right now innovating and developing new solutions that can be used both in global north and global south. And I think in order to succeed with this, we need to boost innovation within global production of affordable, nutritious, and safe food production. And I believe Denmark has a role to play. I believe that the know-how and the experiences we have gathered also through partnerships during many, many decades can be somehow useful in other countries in the world, whether it's biosolutions or food ingredients, or we are talking about cooling and storage expertise and technologies. they will have to help other countries to produce locally and to find these solutions also locally. But the bottom line is, I think, that we need to reduce food loss as well in all areas of the food value chain, from farm to fork. And basically we have, luckily, I really have hope, and I would like to bring a positive perspective into this discussion, because I see companies and solutions out there that can really, utilize side streams or byproducts from the food production in order to make every protein count. And that mentality, that philosophy need to be spread, I think, across the whole, world.
Thank you very much, Kinga, and thank you for bringing these keywords in, the power of partnership and digitalization and also collaboration. I think we will certainly get back to that. But Jan Laustsen, I think it will be very relevant to have your perspective on also how to create these stable value chain. How can we approach this huge challenge?
Well, first of all, let me also thank you for having this opportunity to join this important event. And I think my fellow speaker here has put a lot of emphasized a lot of the very important elements in doing this in a better way in the future. I think in general we need better and stronger value chains, because that seems to be one of the key issues in order to find solutions that are sustainable also for the future. As you mentioned in the introduction, I do work with international relations, and I do meet my fellow farmer representatives from around the world, and it seems to be universal kind of challenges we're facing. How to make sure that it's actually worthwhile producing at all, having the opportunity to do that without having too much interference, any kind of conflict, but also having a decent income for your family so you're actually able to continue working. And of course, it's all about the value chain working. Every single part of the chain is extremely important. And therefore, the private sector is extremely relevant to empower it in many places, as we feel we have quite a strong private sector in Denmark, but we cannot do it alone. We need also the partnerships or the public-private relations working in a decent way, so that you actually see that you can flourish, you can have the kind of results that actually develops the production, develops the trade, develops whatever kind of sustainable kind of food security elements around the world. And I do think that we have, in many ways, at least in the richer countries, taken food security as for granted. And it's not really the case. We all need to be very much aware that we have risks and we do have challenges we need to face together, and therefore collaboration and especially putting this public-private partnership into the key element. And of course, this is not possible everywhere in the world, but at least we do have some good examples of this could actually be a way of moving ahead. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jan. I think what you mentioned here about keeping the private sector engaged in finding these solutions and also bringing the discussion to the fact that farmers need to be motivated in the first place to produce and not being disturbed. I think that's really interesting and highly relevant. How do we create that basis in the first place? And with, of course, many different aspects, depending on where you are in the world. We need to secure that. But Kinga, let's get a little bit back to the good and important areas you mentioned about innovation, digitalization as keys for creating a more stable value chain. Could you maybe share a few of the experience and good examples from the Confederation of Industry Partnerships? How do the private sector contribute in minimizing this insecurity? You already mentioned a few things about ingredients, biosolutions, but there could be other within the innovation and digitalization area.
Yeah, for sure. So first of all, I think I want to emphasize the importance of a good entrepreneurship environment. We have created that within the food industry, luckily in Denmark, but I would love to see other countries do the same way, because I think a good environment for food entrepreneurship is so important. I mean, the other day I was reading about this new Danish company called Next Food, who are basically doing farming in a vertical environment without using soil. I mean, it's a very great perspective and a good example of growing vegetables in big cities, in a sustainable way. So I think entrepreneurship within the business sector is very important to strengthen, so these food solutions are popping up and can be widespread. But I also wanted to show you another perspective in terms of the business sector and what we can do. In my organization, in DI, we try to, help bring our know-how from Danish companies to developing markets. And that's something that we do and we have been doing for 25 years with cooperation and partnership with the Danish aid programs, for example, and a lot of NGOs and also food companies in order to help, improve local food production, where it's mostly needed, So that's one of the ways where we can enhance this partnership also with developing countries where the need is really, really strong. I also wanted to touch upon this topic of the, technology, because I think, I really believe that the companies, the private sector and new technologies and investment in new technologies are going to drive this transition. And I think what has happened with the pandemics and also the energy crisis now, the war in Ukraine, is that there is an extra need for both speed but also scale of this transformation within the food system. We cannot wait anymore. So we have to accelerate. So I think it's key that the developed countries, where still, unfortunately, the new technologies and the new solutions are still, being innovated. It's in the developed countries. We need to get that to the developing world as well, so we don't create this gap between the global north and global south. I think that's quite important. So food technologies and digitization, use that to facilitate entire value chain improvement.
And then do it with a high speed and not being afraid of upscaling. So that's an important message, of course. So Jan, we have been talking about these uncertainties created along the value chain. We see it at the farm level, we see it in the private sector, of course, in different environments, depending if you are in the global north or global south. But would you share some of your thoughts about how can we minimize this unpredictability along the value chain?
Well, it's a key question. I first of all would like to say I'm fully in line with what's been said by Kinga just before. I think that we need to realize that this is not an easy task, and we need to come together. We need to work very close together also with the UN institutions and national governments in order to make this work, because it's a very big challenge for all of us to make this happen in a positive manner for the future. I think we can do a lot of things individually, by projects, by partnerships, by this collaboration, and show the way and inspire each other and find ways forward. And I do think that the strong value chains are examples to follow. The way we look at the resources as being very, very important. Don't waste anything during the process. That goes in the production chain, but also at the consumer level. And therefore, I think the research and development innovation, as mentioned, is very, very important, that we give the opportunities for people to invest in new solutions, new ways of handling the issues. But in general, none of us would actually do any kind of investment when the market is unstable and unpredictable. So therefore we need to find ways of creating some kind of stability, some kind of predictability. Then people are, especially the private sector, are willing to do the investments, and we can move ahead again. So first of all, to stabilize one way or the other, and to find the proper conditions for those doing the investments, which are so desperately needed.
And to get to faster towards that stability, I know, Jan, we can of course not here handle the conflicts, as also Mr. Arif Husain outlined as one of the key challenges. But if we take that aside and look into the environment where you are working with the private sector and so on, what would be the first step from your side in towards a more stable environment?
Well, first of all, we need to believe in international cooperation.
Yes.
Now it seems that a lot of people are actually moving away from international cooperation. That's really a pity. I think that's the only way forward. Also mentioned from the World Food Programme that we need to come together and find a kind of common sense, I would say, even common solutions to move ahead. And therefore, any kind of cooperation across borders is very, very important in order to have this done. We cannot do it alone. Of course, we can be the small ones to doing the inspirational elements and finding new innovative solutions. But we need, first of all, to have the international community coming more together.
Yeah, okay. Would you like to add upon that, Kinga?
Just to add that I think we have to regain confidence in investments, both from the public and the private sectors. And I agree with this very complex, world and this crisis. You maybe tend to be a little bit careful, but I think we have to kind of like keep on pushing this confidence in investments, both from the public and private sectors, in new technology, new production processes, and also new skills. For the workforce, we haven't even talked about that, but new skills for workforce is really necessary to step closer to a world without food insecurity, and of course coupled by agile alliances, as you also say. I think that's very important.
Kinga, you have already mentioned a few specific cases on how the private sector has been working with maybe small steps for creating a more stable value chain. But could you just maybe give us a good example of a best case of where have we succeeded in creating this together?
Yeah, I think maybe an example. I don't know if we have fully succeeded. I think if there were a lot of examples where we fully succeeded, then we could just roll it out in the world. I think that's still yet to be seen. But just an example of investing in circular technologies, for example. Circular technologies that reuse resources, instead of constantly extracting them. I think this whole circularity is starting to become both widely known and focused upon in the entire value chain, also in the US, in Europe, and so on. That could be one example. But there are other technologies where I feel that they are being utilized in the developed world and through partnership with the third world and developing countries. It just somehow creates success also on the local end, and I think these kind of technologies we need to somehow give access to all over the world. Okay. But I don't know, maybe I'm missing out on some kind of extreme success story here, or it's yet to be seen.
No, I think you're right. I'm quite sure Jan agree. Yeah. It's not an easy task. There will always be challenges along the way, but I'm just very curious. Maybe you will share a good example, Jan, also from your side. Maybe not on the fullest success, but then where have we got some inspirational steps?
Well, first of all, as a Dane, I need to be modest because, of course, we cannot solve every problem we have in the world, but we can at least with our creativity, with our innovation approach on things, perhaps be inspirational for some of those handling the problems much more in everyday work, on getting the food on the table, just to securing the next meal, and that would be to, I guess, empower the farmers and empower those who actually do the production and make sure that you have opportunities for them to grow, to invest, and we can inspire by giving examples of what we have experienced. I know it's not to just transfer from a rich country like Denmark to a more poor country, but at least we can inspire. And I do think that farmers worldwide are in the same position, more or less, how to do my production in the best way possible to secure sufficient and nutritious food for the population.
Also, and to add now just examples, I mean, I know that Novozymes and Danfoss are coming up in a minute here. I mean, cold chain solutions, biotech solutions also have large, impact on reducing food. You will hear from Novozymes and Danfoss how their solution has got out there. So I think there are existing solutions, but how to spread it across the whole value chain, that's where we need partnerships and big organizations like the UN.
Yeah. And your company,
and
your organization.
Hopefully, right? Hopefully,
Because of course it's not just the farmers, it's also the companies doing the processing and making sure there's no loss during the process. So you end up with a good and high quality product that consumers are willing to pay for, and therefore giving a reasonable income for the farmers again to invest in improving. So it's also this circular kind of approach. And may I add that you should never stop innovating. That's extremely important. You're never finished with that, and take good care of the resources you have available. That's all we have, and we need to be very careful about that, and of course to nurture the cooperation and the partnerships.
So that's good keys. So this is not an easy task. I think we agree on that, but you have been sharing really good, I think, keys and examples of what can be done to move towards these more stable value chains. We are getting to the end of this dialogue, but before I will let you go, I will actually ask you to share good advice to other business leaders who would like to take action towards ensuring these more stable value chains, moving towards a more secure food system. So Kinga, what would be your most important advice?
Yeah, only one?
Yes.
Maybe two, maybe can I have 1.5? No, the one is, of course, that I really would like to encourage that all business leaders think how they can adopt digital technologies that help them optimize and unlock their potential. This is within the food sector, but also within other sectors. And if I can be so fast, then of course also the whole partnership idea. Think holistically. Don't think about you as a business leader or a company that are that you are alone. There are so many other opportunities by cooperating. So think that all the time into your strategy, and whether it's a new product or service, think in partnerships.
Thank you very much, Kinga. And Jen?
Well, it's very much alike. I would say that we should do our best to improve all kinds of cooperation and partnerships at all levels, because I think that's the way forward. If we cannot agree on things, it's difficult to find solutions that are sustainable. So that would be my approach.
Thank you very much, both of you. Thank you for a very inspiring dialogue, and thank you for being with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we are moving on in the program now, and I'm really honored to welcome our next two guests. They have both taken important steps in their companies within sustainability, among others regarding the reduction of food loss and waste, which we have already been touching upon. Today they will share some of the specific solutions and ambitions for creating a more resilient food system. So we will meet in a very short while Morten Enggaard Rasmussen, who is the Executive Vice President for Sustainability and Brand at Novozymes. Novozymes is a global biotechnology company, and the company's focus is the research, development and production of industrial enzymes, microorganisms and biopharmaceutical ingredients. Morten works with expanding Novozymes' sustainable biological solutions all over the world to solve sustainability challenges, such as reducing food waste, improving animal nutrition, and reducing water and energy resources in food production. Solutions that positively contribute to ensuring a sustainable agriculture and food system. We will also welcome Torben Funder-Kristensen, who is Head of Industry Affairs for Climate Solutions at Danfoss. Danfoss is engineering technology that helps the world to get much more out of less. With the promise of quality, reliability, and innovation deeply rooted in the Danfoss DNA, they deliver an extensive range of products and solutions. And Torben is at the forefront of technology development that helps implement or develop better cold chains. So available cold chain technology throughout the value chain can reduce food loss. We can work with packaging, storaging, and transporting food products at the right temperature, which extends the product's lifetime. So welcome, both of you. Welcome, Morten and Torben. Please join me here in the studio. So now we will move closer to the actual products and solutions in order to ensure a more stable value chain, a more resilient food system. This is why you're here. And I would like to start by asking Morten the first question here today in this dialogue. So Morten, how can these biotechnological solutions actually contribute to meet these challenges of the world's food system which we are facing? How can they provide more food security globally?
First of all, thank you, Lisa, and thank you to Food Nation. It's really it's a key moment in time right now. We are seeing throughout the last couple of years just a significant intensifying of the challenges with the food security and the availability of enough proteins. We also look into a world that is continuing to grow and has a requirement for more and more proteins. We have heard from the first couple of speakers some of the devastating challenges. We are seeing that farmland around the world is now being more and more exhausted. We are seeing a high use of fresh water going into making sure our current protein production is actually coming through. And there is a need for transforming the food systems as we know it and the way we are doing it. And one of those abilities truly lies when it comes to biological solutions. And it goes throughout the value chain. And I love the conversations we have heard from the first couple of speakers that it is a full value chain where you need to transform the food systems. And it goes from the farmer and the field on how actually to alternate away from fossil chemicals when it comes to pesticides or it comes to fertilizer. You'll have the ability to transition into biological solutions. But it's also about creating value pockets or new areas for farmers. Whether you are in Africa or you are in India, you have the ability in new ways to utilize the output from your farm and hence create more value. And then it's really taking it through the entire value chain to make sure you optimize in the way you are doing your production, reducing the amount of water and energy that is going into it, and hence also increasing the shelf life, the general quality of the food, even to reducing the amount of sugars or salts and keep the savory in the different products. As one example, in Africa, we are specifically going in a collaboration, and we heard from all the speakers here now on the partnership and the ideal model on how to go forward. We sat and talked outside. It's extremely difficult as a company to do it all on your own and really step in and make sure that it is value adding for you. We have a project in Ethiopia where we're going together with other multinationals, other Danish companies, but also local companies, where we're going out engaging with farmers on creating chickpeas that we are then turning in with enzymes to high protein biscuits that are produced locally on a local factory. That creates and secures enough proteins for children in Ethiopia. It creates value for the farmers that are participating and actually gives back and creates for that community a high value.
What a great case to share right from the beginning, Morten. Thank you very much. And giving the broad perspective on how biosolutions can actually contribute across the value chain. It's quite impressive, and I think we'll get back to even more of these good cases. I would like to move towards you, Torben, because I know that you have some really interesting perspectives also on supply chain. So I would like to add the first question to you. How is your perspective on how we create these sustainable cold chains? And they are key in contributing to solving these challenges. So what is your approach to creating these sustainable cold chains?
Yeah. First of all, also thank you for having me here, Lise. Yeah, I think we have been within the cold chain for many years, more than, or close to 90 years actually. It's our main heritage. So we are across the total cold chain. We are from the farmer's area until you can say the supermarket at the end. So we have a quite long experience around this. We also have a long experience engaging, I would say, globally on developing cold chains, developing the total sustainable, as you say, sustainable cold chain also. Sustainability in that sense for us, it's not only about having a theoretical environmental sustainability. Of course, the problem technically is complex also, because everyone knows that if you want to make systems that cool down food, then you use refrigerants. Refrigerants is one of the things that has been really up in the press for a long time. It's there for more than 30 years also, so that we are working with also, but that's only a technical challenge seen from my perspective. If we want to develop cold chains, and especially where they are very at a well, you can say at a very low stage, then you need also to look at different other parameters. You need to look at education, because you need to maintain the cold chain. You need to look at the business models. And you need to look at different other factors in the country for industry to move in, actually, which is about stability of the country also. And in that sense, I think it is important that we, as an industry, as Morten says, that we need to work in associations. Of course, the single company can go into a specific project, but it's very important also that we align across industry, either globally or regionally, on working together around these things. Technically, I think we are there. You know, we can do that today. There are a lot of solutions, and I'm sure also, Morten, you have also a lot of solutions that can be used today.
Yeah. We will get even closer into what is needed, Torben, I think, to create these more stable systems. But let's just have another perspective from you, Morten. You are both talking about that we need to do this together, and as you also said, we heard it from the previous speakers. But I would like you to kind of share some of your reflections on what are the specific tools and actions that we need to bring in order to maximize the yields of the crops and also to reduce the input resources out there. I mean, this is what your biotechnological products can support, but how are you doing it, Morten, in practice?
Very good. So our products and the way we are working with enzymes is actually applied into a variety, 30 different industries, 700 different products. But where we are going in and supporting on farm level, we are actually going in and supporting them in subsidizing and supporting their products today and by using our enzymes. And that means you can go in and acquire and buy our products, and then you actually increase and get protection for either drought, or you can get support on if it's heavy rain, or you can get support on maximizing the yield of your product. And it becomes a part of that mix that you're providing with your day-to-day work as well as a farmer. The big challenge is, as is also being stated by Torben, the technologies are here for a a variety of years. It's been ready already. We have heard from multiple politicians that when we need to transition away into a sustainable world, that there's a technology hockey stick coming in years. Technology will save us. But the technologies are here. What we actually are needing is political support. We need to focus on what will bring us further forward. That means today 70% of all subsidies are going into the fossil paradigm. So when we're looking at where subsidies and support are ending today, it's in the old way of thinking, whether you're running a farm or you are producing and getting products forward. That needs to change. We need to have incentives and support also to go out in partnership and changing these food systems and to enable farmers to have a better livelihood. As an example, today the Indian government are looking at how to double a farmer's income by 2030. And the way we are looking at it today, a farmer in India has a different way of cutting the straw compared to what is done elsewhere. I was in India 2 weeks ago and had a very interesting conversation with an organization looking at how to support doubling this income. Today there's not a revenue stream for a farmer for the straw of the corn. That means today you go out and you burn down your field when you have cut and done your harvest. That leads to air pollution. It leads to waste that you are not obtaining and creating. You could create energy from that straw, and we do that quite a bit in our bioenergy area. So there are ways where we can go out and partner with local governments, and we can have a focus on transitioning not only their livelihood, but into other industries as well. And that's when you're starting to take your enzyme product and actually delivering in multiple levers throughout the value chain.
Great example, and I noticed you used a term, you called it value pockets. I think that's a really good term of talking about how can you put in these value pockets around. And you're actually building upon what the previous speaker said, Jan Laustsen. He said we need to empower and motivate the farmers in order to create this system.
You need to get out on a local level and really start driving a change. And you need to be able to show where these value pockets are and create an incentive to alternate the system. When you start there, then there will be a long tail of changes that are coming in a very natural way.
And Torben, I know you have a good perspective on this as well, because you have really been working with this for many years. So you have good examples of how to turn this around, this perspective on the cold chain, also involving the primary producers.
Yeah. I think what we have done, we have been engaged in different projects, but one of them has been in India also on bananas, for instance, and how to. So we were in that project, and one of the, I would say, eye-openers there was also that the local farmers, they basically run a high risk, personal risk, when they enter such a new value chain also. Of course they do, yeah. And so there need to be an incentive, a reward at the end for them also. And they need to trust that they have to change maybe their harvesting habits, yeah. Because if you want to export some of your crops there, then you need to go and harvest at a specific time, simply to be able to, when it's entering the cold chain, that you can control the ripening of that fruit also. That needs trust also, and it needs education. You need then also a full staff of people that can run a big cold room for those fruits also, so they are under control. One of the things can also be how to organize farmers then. Should they work together in a kind of collaboration around that? Should they hire one expert in common? I think that will differ from part to part, but that could be a good idea actually. I think there are several good examples which we can really learn from, somehow to start making some master plans for how to start those ideas.
Talking about the good example regarding the bananas in India. So what would you say were the key to getting all this started out there?
I think it was also coming, as you mentioned, the program they have in India about double farmers' income.
So the government program.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
And then as industry, you jump on it actually, and help them and facilitate also, because what we can provide is at the end technology, but we of course also can provide our, you can say, experience from other projects. Yeah. Another example is that we engage in building up center of excellence in Rwanda, for instance, where we are participating in setting up educational centers with laboratories where you can basically educate refrigeration engineers, so they can go and work out in the field afterwards. Yeah, and you have to set up that kind of incentive program then also for people to get there, educate them how to get them back into the market, and that is just one of, I would say, some of the very, very basic ways of establishing cold chain. It's that you need the technical ability in the society also.
So being a little more specific, Torben, you're representing an international company. What would your role be in a project like that? Are you going in like an advisor? I mean, you have the technology, I know that. But do you go in and as an advisor as well, or how do you engage yourself?
Yeah, we will do that. We will provide educational material, for instance.
Okay.
We would provide, of course, to a certain extent, we would sponsor equipment also. Yeah, and we would, if possible, we would have local people there also. If we can create a kind of overlap to say, at the same time, we will have an office in the nearby area or whatever, and then we can have that symbiosis, educating students also, and maybe we can even employ some of them afterwards.
And what about your?
Just to finish, because I think, and thereby we also engage our local organization. It's not something which is steered from Denmark. It's our local organization who will take care of that.
Okay, yeah. And back to you, Morten, how would that be from your also international company? Yeah. How would you engage yourself? How would you be committed in these projects, partnerships, as we're talking about?
We sat and talked outside, Torben and I, and I really also buy into the whole notion on this with trust. How do you go out to a farmer in India and create that trust that you're coming with? He or she has been running a farm for multiple years, been inheriting from their parents. So all of a sudden, just trust us, this will work. So we'll need to have areas where we can demonstrate that this works. And that's actually one of the other partnerships we're also looking into in the case, for instance, in India. Do we have test farms where we have the ability to demonstrate and show and create that trust in our products and what we say? I don't think we can go out as a company, just say, trust us, we are from Denmark and this will all work. We'll need to get down to a really rudimental level, demonstrate what is happening, demonstrate that there is a business case and there's a relevance of our products. And it's through those collaborations, and where we need support is where the local governments play a very big part. It's where the local trade organizations play an important part to engage all different levels. Otherwise, we will not see these changes.
And this is also building upon the previous speakers saying that we need this international cooperation to take us even further in this direction of creating more stable systems. Yeah.
The partnership is needed, otherwise we'll not get to that point where we actually have a focus on a lifting and transitioning the local societies. But the same goes also for us in more developed markets. We will need the same partnership to think through how to transform our food systems.
Yes, because we need it all over the world. Yeah,
correct.
We need to move along, and we need to do it out in the world. We also need to do it here in the studio. And to do that, I will ask you for good advice for other business leaders who would like to take action in moving along in this transformation of the food system. So Torben, what would be your best advice for other business leaders who would like to engage themselves?
I would say it's not difficult to engage yourself. I think it's about do your homework. Take a look at what is up globally. Take a look at your industry organizations. What are they doing actually? And try to prioritize if you want to engage. Depending on your company. Is it regionally? How local should it be? Should it be a global role or however? But I think it is today the opportunities they are big to engage here, but also to take a learning on the best cases. Yeah.
And not get spread out too far. Yeah. Truly prioritize. The world only has opportunities to engage in. But I really like the notion you're saying. What is your company strategy? Where do you want to go out and try to nurture that idea, and then find the partners to do that? Going out and thinking you can do it all on your own is too big of a commercial risk, and simply it's impossible, you'll drown. But actually having that focus on your core capabilities and seeing in a different perspective, and then seek that knowledge that they're locally. You get amazed when you get out and see the opportunities in front of you.
So that would be your best advice, Morten?
That would be truly my best advice. Get out and really learn from the local knowledge, and do some mistakes as well. It's the mistakes that will bring you forward. As we also have been discussing that where we are today within cooling techniques, but that has taken 150 years to get there. Novozymes has been around for multiple decades as well. So it's only about failing and failing fast, and then have the ability to look through and enable that growth in different other areas.
Thank you very much for very inspiring, good advices to both of you. And thank you for being with us today.
It was a pleasure.
Yes, see you. So, during this last hour, we have all been inspired with experiences, advices, and actions that can contribute to solving challenges related to food insecurity. The number of severe food insecure people is terrifying, and with rising global demand, there is an urgent need for new solutions to produce more effectively and with as little impact on climate as possible. We all need to take action now, and we can leave no one behind, as the United Nations message was on World Food Day. Clearly, as we have heard also in this dialogue today, innovation and collaborations are important tools, no matter where in the world you are based. I would like to highlight one thing which stands especially clear to me after this global food talk. We will all have responsibility, and we can all influence the agenda, even with smaller initiatives. By being frontrunners and by talking about how we work with creating stable value chains, we can influence and inspire leaders worldwide to take a stand and initiate action. Therefore, I am happy to hear about these many good initiatives that has been brought forward in the Global Food Talk today, both from organizations and companies that have worked with sustainable transition for many years and still have high ambitions to increase this further around the world. Available cold chain technology can reduce food loss, and also natural ingredients can maximize the yield of crops and reduce food loss and waste. Packaging, storaging, and transporting of food products at the right temperature extends food lifetime and ensure that more food reaches the table of tomorrow's growing population. This is what we need. By broadening our perspective to the entire food system and optimizing it, we have to make sure that resources are no longer wasted in the food supply before they reach the table and the plates for every one of us, no matter where in the world we are. It is also clear to me that it is of uttermost importance that we realize that we cannot rely on one single solution. This is not about quick fixes. We need to continuously evolve and develop solutions and products. We need to innovate. and we need to move forward with collaborations and partnerships. Let's build a world with access to safe and nutritious and healthy food for everyone in a sustainable way. I'm looking very much forward to follow up on this urgent challenge quite soon, where for the first time I will be joining the United Nations COP, and this time it's in Egypt in November, where governments, community leaders, farmers, academia and other experts will meet to take decisions on innovative, sustainable solutions that will help countries to take effective climate action. The journey has started, and we all have a really important role to play. I'm very pleased and I'm very grateful that you took your time to be with us today. And I hope that you will be motivated to join us again later this year, where we will continue our series of global food talks. Our next one will be held on November 30 with the title of Powering Sustainable Agri-Food System with Plant-Based Products and Solutions. You can already now find information on the Food Nation website, and you can follow the program development there as well through our channels, media channels, and through our newsletter. You can get the latest news on upcoming events and updates within the agriculture and food sector there. This Global Food Talk was hosted in Food Nation's virtual universe, and please take your time to browse around and get even more inspiration and explore what possibilities you have within all the different strongholds that we will need to share. Thank you once again for joining us today, and have a very nice day. Thank you.